In the journey of life, we often stand at the precipice of the unknown, gazing into the abyss of uncertainty. The future, with its myriad possibilities, can be both exhilarating and terrifying, but it is in these moments of fear and doubt that we must remind ourselves, do not fear what's next. Consider the great explorers of history, those who set sail into uncharted waters, driven by a vision of discovery. They did not know what lay beyond the horizon, yet they pressed forward, propelled by faith in their purpose. Their courage was not the absence of fear, but the determination to move forward in spite of it. Similarly, in our own lives, we face moments of transition, new jobs, new relationships, new challenges that stretch our comfort zones. These junctures can be daunting, but they are also opportunities for growth. It is natural to feel apprehensive about the unknown, but remember, it is in the unknown that we often find our true potential. Think of a seed planted in the soil. It does not see the towering tree it will become, nor does it understand the process of growth. Yet it trusts the process, pushing through the earth, reaching for the light. In the same way, we must trust in our own growth, even when the path is not clear. Time fear often arises from a place of perceived lack of control, lack of knowledge, lack of certainty. But control is an illusion, and certainty is a myth. Life is inherently unpredictable, and it is this unpredictability that makes it vibrant and full of possibility. When we let go of the need to control every outcome, we open ourselves to the richness of experience. We learn to embrace the ebb and flow of life, understanding that each twist and turn brings with it lessons and growth. Moreover, fear can be a signpost indicating areas where we need to grow. Rather than avoiding what scares us, we should lean into it, using it as a catalyst for personal development. Each challenge faced and overcome builds resilience, fortifying us for the journey ahead. Living by design ministries in times of uncertainty, it is also important to remember our past triumphs. Reflecting on previous challenges we have overcome can serve as a powerful reminder of our strength and capability. We have faced adversity before and emerged stronger. There is no reason to believe we cannot do so again. Surrounding ourselves with supportive individuals can also alleviate fear. Community provides encouragement, perspective, and strength. When we share our fears and aspirations with others, we often find that we are not alone in our struggles, and together we can navigate the uncertainties of life. As we look to the future, let us do so with a sense of curiosity rather than apprehension. Let us approach the unknown not as a threat, but as an adventure waiting to unfold. For it is in embracing what's next that we truly live. So, when faced with the unknown, remember, do not fear what's next. Embrace it, trust in yourself and the journey ahead, for the best is yet to come. Fear is an emotion every one of us has encountered. It whispers in our ears when we're about to take a leap, stand for something, or walk into the unknown. It tells us to pause, to wait, to second, guess ourselves, and many do. Many stand at the edge of opportunity, held back by the trembling voice of fear. But courage, true courage, is not found in the silence of fear. It is found in the moment when you hear the fear, you feel it in your chest, and yet you move forward. Courage is not a clean slate. It is not the absence of fear, not the lack of butterflies in your stomach or the sweat on your palms. Courage is stepping forward while fear still clutches your shoulder. It is walking with fear beside you, but not letting it lead. We live in a world that often celebrates confidence and certainty, yet most of our personal victories were born in trembling hands and racing hearts. Ask anyone who's ever dared to change their life, who's walked away from the familiar to pursue something uncertain. They didn't do it because they had no fear. They did it because their purpose, their belief, or their hope was louder than their doubt. That is courage. That is the essence of forward movement in life. Think of the person standing at the edge of a new beginning, a mother returning to school after raising children, a young man walking away from a job that drains his soul, an artist deciding to share her work after years of hiding it. Each of these decisions is soaked in fear, but they move anyway, not because they are fearless, but because their conviction is stronger. And every step they take into the unknown becomes a seed of courage. With each step, fear weakens, not because it disappears, but because it is no longer in control. Fear has a language of its own. It says, "What if you fail? What if they laugh? What if it all falls apart?" And those questions sting because they're rooted in real possibilities. Yes, you might fail. Yes, they might laugh. Yes, it might not work out the way you planned, but fear never tells you the other side. It never says, "What if you fly? What if this is the door you've been waiting for? What if you change your life?" That's the voice of courage, and that voice often speaks softer, but it speaks truer. And when you choose to listen to it, you change the direction of your life. Moving forward in spite of fear doesn't mean the fear disappears. It means you no longer bow to it. You rise, you take the meeting. You make the call. You walk onto the stage. You write the first page of the book. Fear is there, but it is no longer the driver of your decisions. You become the one steering the wheel of your own journey. And that, more than any natural talent or perfect plan, is what separates the dreamers from the doers. Even the greatest stories of transformation began in fear. The hero doesn't begin fully formed with all the answers and no hesitation. The hero begins as we all do, uncertain, shaky, often unwilling. But the hero moves anyway. That's why we relate to them. That's why we're moved by their journey. Because deep inside, we know that we too can make that choice. To move, to act, to risk, even when every nerve in our body screams at us to turn back. There's a strange paradox in this world. The things that scare us the most are often the very things we need to do. We stand before them with our hearts in our throats, our minds filled with excuses, but somewhere deep inside, something knows this is the moment, this is the step, and even the smallest movement forward becomes an act of defiance against fear. That's how courage is built, not in grand gestures, but in daily defiance, in the quiet decision to try again, in the tired hand reaching for one more opportunity, in the whisper, "I'm scared, but I'll do it anyway." And here's the truth that fear doesn't want you to know. Every time you act in courage, the fear loses just a bit of its grip. It retreats, it gets quieter, and in its place, confidence grows, not the confidence of arrogance, but the confidence of experience. The kind that says, "I've been afraid before, and I moved anyway. I can do it again." Fear thrives in darkness and silence. It grows when you stay still, when you shrink, when you hide your light. But courage lives in movement, in risk, in truth. Every time you show up authentically, every time you speak up, stand up, or step forward, you declare to fear, "You do not own me." Even when you stumble, even when you fall, that doesn't mean fear was right. It means you are human, it means you are in motion, it means you are learning. Failure isn't the proof that fear was justified. It's the proof that you had the courage to try, and trying is always braver than staying still. We're not meant to live under fear's shadow. We're meant to grow, to stretch, to expand, and we cannot expand unless we are willing to risk. Fear wants us to shrink, to stay small, to avoid, but life is calling us forward always. And sometimes that call feels terrifying. But if you answer it, if you just say yes, even through trembling lips, even with shaking hands, you will find something on the other side that fear never wanted you to see: strength. The strength to try again, the strength to start something new, the strength to walk away from what no longer serves you, the strength to trust in your own journey, so even when fear comes knocking, and it will, Don't wait for it to leave. Just acknowledge it, nod if you must, and keep walking, because courage doesn't wait for perfect peace. It just moves. It moves with fear, through fear and beyond it. That's the power of walking in spite of fear. That's where change begins. That's where your story gets written, not in the pages where you waited, but in the ones where you acted. The unknown is a vast and shadowy place. It is the place where the map ends, where the familiar trail disappears, where you can no longer predict what's around the next bend. And it is there, in that uncharted space, that life does its most powerful work. Growth does not happen in the safety of routine. It does not happen when we are surrounded by certainty, control, or comfort. It happens when we are stretched, when we are challenged, when we are pulled beyond what we thought we were capable of handling. The unknown carries with it a certain fear because it does not answer our questions right away. It does not offer guarantees. It does not promise smooth roads or painless lessons. But what it does promise is potential. Potential that we would never discover if we stayed within the walls we've built around ourselves. The greatest transformations in life almost always come after a moment of stepping into the unknown. Not because it's easy, but because it demands something deeper from us. It calls on strength we forgot we had, wisdom we haven't yet touched, and courage we never fully realized lived inside us. Growth is not polite. It does not knock and wait patiently. It often comes disguised in the form of discomfort. It shows up as a job loss, a sudden move, a painful goodbye, or a decision we've been avoiding. And when it arrives, it shakes everything loose. The patterns we clung to, the beliefs we held as truth, the stories we told ourselves about who we are, they begin to unravel, and in that unraveling we find space. Space to rebuild, space to redefine, space to grow. Think about a child learning to walk. There's no comfort in those early wobbly steps. There is falling, there is frustration, there are bruises and stumbles, but there is also something beautiful, a relentless desire to move forward. The child doesn't wait until walking feels safe. They walk because something within says, go. That instinct doesn't leave us. It just gets quieter beneath the noise of fear and self-doubt, but it's still there, waiting to be heard. It speaks up in moments of change, of transition, of opportunity. It says, you're ready, even if you don't feel ready. Stepping into the unknown demands a level of faith, not always in a higher power, but sometimes simply in yourself, in the process, in the idea that you don't have to know everything before you begin. You only have to begin. Life does not give us clarity and confidence first. It gives us the opportunity, and clarity comes through movement. We don't wait to be fearless. We act while we're afraid, and somewhere along the way, fear loses its power. Doubt begins to dissolve, and strength, quiet and steady, begins to rise. There is a version of you that only exists on the other side of uncertainty, a version you've never met because you haven't yet walked the road that will introduce you. And that road is often paved with unknowns. You don't become who you're meant to be by staying the same. You become it by letting go of what's safe, of what's familiar, of what no longer serves the person you're becoming. Sometimes growth feels like loss. Sometimes it feels like chaos. Sometimes it feels like standing in the middle of nowhere with no idea where to go next. But all of that is part of the process. It is a sacred kind of undoing, a breaking down of the old to make space for the new. And even when it doesn't feel like it, something within you is always aligning, always shifting, always preparing you for what's next. The unknown will never stop being uncomfortable, but comfort has never been the birthplace of greatness. We were not made to sit still. We were made to explore, to reach, to push beyond what we know. It is in those uncertain steps that we find the lessons we didn't know we needed. It is in the unpredictability that we discover strength, adaptability, resilience. Think of every major turning point in your life. Was it calm? Was it clear? Or did it come with confusion, hesitation, a deep breath before the leap? Chances are it came with a mix of excitement and fear. That is the mark of the unknown, and that is the birthplace of growth. We don't grow when we're sure. We grow when we risk. The people who inspire us most are not those who had everything figured out. They're the ones who walked into the storm anyway. They're the ones who made the choice to evolve, even when it meant letting go of the ground beneath their feet. They're the ones who trusted that what lies ahead is worth more than the comfort of where they are now. And you are no different. You have that same ability. The unknown is not here to break you. It is here to build you. It teaches you how to bend without breaking. It teaches you how to think for yourself, how to feel deeply, how to see the world not just as it is, but as it could be. It strips away the things that no longer serve you so that you can travel lighter, wiser, freer, and it reminds you again and again that you are not stuck, that you are capable of more than you thought, that the story is not over. The world changes us through uncertainty. It shapes us through the questions we don't have answers to. It pushes us to grow when the path is not lit, when the outcome is unclear, when all we have is a choice to stay or to step forward. And every time you step forward, even into fear, even into confusion, you change, you grow. You get closer to the life that's waiting on the other side. The unknown is a gift, though it often comes wrapped in fear. But once you begin to walk with it, once you learn to trust it, you begin to see it differently. You begin to see that it has always been the place where you come alive, where you expand, where you meet the person you're meant to become. There is a natural urge in every human heart to seek control. We crave order, we plan, we organize, we draw timelines and maps and outlines, hoping that if we prepare enough, we can hold the future in the palm of our hand. But no matter how tightly we grip, life always reminds us that control is an illusion. Things change, people leave, circumstances shift, plans unravel, and when that happens, many are left shaken, clinging to what was, unable to embrace what could be. But it is only when we release that grip, when we stop trying to master every detail, that we truly begin to live. Letting go of control is not weakness. It is not surrendering to chaos. It is choosing trust over fear. It is saying, I don't know what's ahead, but I believe in my ability to face it. Life is not meant to be a straight line. It is a winding road, filled with unexpected detours, sudden stops, and moments of acceleration. And when we stop resisting the unpredictability, we begin to experience the fullness of life, not just its comfort, but its depth, its surprises, its lessons. The people who thrive in uncertainty are not the ones who have all the answers. They are the ones who have learned to be at peace without them. They move forward without needing every light to turn green. They step into the unknown, not because it is easy, but because they have learned that growth often wears the mask of unpredictability. They have stopped asking, what if I fall, and started asking, what might I learn if I fly? There is a kind of beauty that only reveals itself when you stop demanding outcomes and start embracing experiences. When you're no longer trying to manipulate the road but simply walk it, you begin to notice what's around you. The small blessings, the hidden messages, the quiet strength within. Life is speaking all the time, but control can make us deaf to its whispers. We become so focused on reaching the destination that we miss the transformation happening on the journey. Control often comes from fear, the fear of pain, the fear of failure, the fear of the unknown. We believe that if we just manage every variable, we can avoid disappointment. But life isn't built that way. Disappointment isn't a flaw in the system, it's part of it. We learn through it, we grow from it. And when we stop fearing it, we stop fearing change. We begin to loosen our grip. We begin to trust. Trust doesn't mean everything will go the way you hope. It means you will be okay even when it doesn't. It means knowing that you can pivot, adapt, rebuild. It means recognizing that strength isn't in controlling your surroundings. It's in mastering your response. You can't always choose the waves, but you can learn how to surf. You can't dictate the weather, but you can choose how to dress for the storm. And when you begin to live this way, you discover a freedom that control could never offer. When you let go, you become open. Open to growth, open to connection, open to joy that arrives without a plan. Some of the most beautiful moments in life are the ones you didn't schedule. The unexpected conversation, the accidental encounter, the detour that led you to something better. When you're not busy steering every moment, you begin to receive them, and they change you. They expand your capacity for wonder, for presence, for love. There is a reason rivers flow, and trees bend, and seasons change. Nothing in nature resists movement. Everything adapts. And yet, we, with all our intellect and intention, often fight against the flow of life. We brace ourselves, we resist, we cling, and in doing so, we create tension within ourselves. But when we let go, when we begin to align with the rhythm of life, we find peace not because everything is perfect, but because we're no longer fighting what is. Letting go of control doesn't mean you stop caring. It doesn't mean you stop planning or working hard. It means you shift your energy from force to flow, from pressure to presence. It means you stop trying to bend life to your will and start dancing with it. It's a partnership, not a power struggle, and in that shift, everything changes, not outside, but within. Your heart softens, your mind clears, your spirit rests. There is wisdom in the unexpected. There is growth in every detour. And sometimes, what feels like a delay is really preparation. What feels like a loss is really a redirection. You don't always see it right away, but if you stay open, if you stop needing to control every twist and turn, you begin to trust the journey. You begin to find meaning in the mess, clarity in the chaos, and purpose in the pain. So many are waiting for life to go according to plan before they start living fully. They're waiting for certainty before they take the leap, for the green light before they move forward. But life doesn't wait, it moves, and if you want to move with it, you must let go. Let go of timelines, let go of perfection. Let go of the idea that you must have everything figured out. You don't. You never will. And that's okay. You're not failing because things didn't go as expected. You're not behind because the path changed. You're human, and being human means learning, adjusting, growing. It means allowing space for surprise. It means choosing faith over fear. Not the blind kind of faith that ignores reality, but the grounded kind that trusts your own resilience, your own creativity, your own ability to keep going. When you stop needing to control life, you start to trust yourself. You begin to believe that no matter what comes, you'll handle it. That belief is not arrogance, it is power. It is the quiet power of someone who has faced uncertainty and decided to keep showing up. It is the power of someone who no longer needs guarantees to move forward. So when the road ahead feels unpredictable, when the future is unclear, when the plan falls apart, remember that this, too, is life. This, too, is part of the process. The unpredictability is not your enemy. It is your invitation. Your invitation to let go, to trust, to flow, and to discover the kind of freedom that can never be found in control. There is something profoundly powerful in remembering where you've been. In the face of new uncertainty, when fear begins to rise and the unknown stretches wide in front of you, There's strength in turning back, not to retreat, but to recall. To look at the moments you once thought you couldn't survive, the challenges you thought would break you, the nights you thought would never end, and realize you're still standing, you're still breathing. You're still here, and that means something. It means you are not as fragile as fear wants you to believe. It means you've overcome more than you give yourself credit for. We forget so quickly. We forget the battles we've fought in silence, the burdens we've carried without asking for help, the risks we've taken even when the outcome was uncertain. It's easy in the rush of life to overlook the strength that's been building inside us all along. But it's there. Every scar has a story. Every tear was a lesson. Every fall was a step toward becoming more grounded, more aware, more resilient. When fear knocks, it often sounds louder than reason. It says you're not ready. It whispers you've never done this before. But it conveniently forgets to mention all the things you once hadn't done, and yet you did them anyway. The first time you spoke up. The first time you stood alone. The first time you took a chance on yourself. Those weren't moments of certainty. They were moments of courage, and if you did it once, you can do it again. This is where memory becomes a source of power. Not nostalgia, not longing for what used to be, but the recognition of your own journey, the ability to say, I've been here before, maybe not in this exact place, maybe not with this exact fear, but I know what it feels like to be unsure, and I also know what it feels like to rise. There is no better evidence for what you're capable of than what you've already survived. But even beyond your own story, there's something unshakable about not walking through life alone. When everything is uncertain, when the weight feels too heavy, there is real strength in reaching out. Not because you are weak, but because you are wise enough to know that no one was ever meant to carry it all alone. The myth of self-sufficiency is just that, a myth. We were built for connection. We were wired for community. And sometimes the most courageous thing you can do is say, I need someone beside me. Support doesn't have to be dramatic. It can be a quiet presence, a voice on the other end of the phone, a hand on your shoulder. Someone who looks you in the eye and says, I see you, I've been there, you're not alone. That kind of support changes everything. It steadies your breathing. It clears your vision. It reminds you that whatever you're walking through, someone has walked through something like it and made it out the other side. We are mirrors for each other. When you're surrounded by people who see your strength even when you can't, who remind you of your courage when all you feel is fear, who speak hope into your doubts, you begin to believe again. You begin to remember that fear is not a signal to stop. It's a sign that you're doing something that matters, something that stretches you, something that might just lead to the next version of who you're becoming. Don't underestimate the impact of the people around you. Sometimes it's their belief in you that will carry you through when your own runs thin. Sometimes their voice will be the echo that drowns out fear's noise, and it goes both ways. Just as others can hold space for you, you can do the same for them. Every time you rise from a challenge, you become a guidepost for someone else. Every time you speak your truth, you give someone else permission to do the same. That's the beauty of shared humanity. We don't grow alone, we grow together. Even when life feels deeply personal, even when the fear is intimate and the path feels narrow, someone else has felt what you're feeling. Someone else has questioned whether they're enough, whether they'll make it, whether they can keep going. And yet they have, and you can, because inside you is a memory bank filled with proof, not theory, but lived experience, that you've done hard things, that you've kept going, that you've found strength in the middle of the storm. So much of fear is forgetting how far we've come, forgetting who we've become, forgetting that we're not alone. But every time you choose to remember, Every time you pause and reflect and reconnect with your own story, you take back your power. You remind yourself that fear is not the whole truth. It is a feeling, not a fact. It can be acknowledged, but it doesn't have to be obeyed. It's easy to look ahead and feel overwhelmed by all that's unknown. But don't forget what you've already walked through. Don't forget the mountains you've climbed without even realizing they were mountains at the time. You have earned your confidence, not the loud, showy kind, but the quiet, steady kind. The kind that lives in your bones. The kind that whispers, "I've been afraid before, and I moved forward anyway." You don't have to know exactly how things will unfold. You just need to trust that you've been prepared for this moment in ways you can't fully see yet. Trust that your past didn't harden you, it strengthened you. Trust that your people are out there. May be just one person, maybe a few, ready to walk beside you, ready to lift you when your knees begin to buckle. Trust that everything you've experienced has brought you to this point for a reason. You're not starting from scratch. You're starting from experience. You're starting from every difficult conversation you've had, every failure you've learned from, every time you thought you were done but kept going anyway. You're not empty. You're full of lessons, full of strength, full of stories that prove again and again that you are not defined by fear. You are defined by how you choose to respond to it. And when you remember all this, when you lean on what you've already overcome and lean into those who want to see you win, the future doesn't feel quite so terrifying. It starts to feel like something you're capable of facing, something you might even grow to embrace, because when you walk with memory and support, you walk with something that fear can't touch. You walk with proof, you walk with power, and you walk forward and to whatever comes next.